FPL GW2 Team Selection. What is up, everyone? How's it going? FPL Era here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. We've got plenty to digest from that game week 1, so we're going to take a look at your key questions ahead of Friday night's deadline. And I know I call them REIJNDERS throughout all of my YouTube stream on Friday, but I've got REIJNDERS of City to thank for that differential haul in game week 1. Looking ahead to game week 2, I've got to decide whether or not to play my bench boost this week. So in today's video, I'm going to bring you through my transfer plans and team selection ahead of the game week 2 deadline. We've lots to discuss. Let's get into the video. So before we get into today's video, quick reminder, as always, to give the video a like. Let's hit a like goal of 70 likes on this video. So head on down there, drop the video a like. And if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, head on down there, click subscribe on the channel if you're enjoying the content. We're on the road to 10k subs. Fingers crossed we can get there before Christmas, so your support is greatly appreciated. So here's a quick look back at my Game Week 1 review. 55 points of the week was an okay start to the season, just above the average score, and I've got that differential haul from REIJNDERS, a captaincy return from Mo Salah, and a clean sheet from Sanchez and Van de Ven to thank for those returns. Looking back to that Friday night game at Anfield, it was a tough watch as a Salah captainer, but in the last minute, a long ball upfield, Mo Salah chased it down, cut inside, and slotted it into the bottom corner, and that captaincy return now means that Mo Salah continued on his record, and he hasn't failed to return in any game week 1 since joining Liverpool. Moving on to the early kickoff on Saturday, I went into it with a double Aston Villa attack in Rodgers and Watkins, but it was a disappointing return as Newcastle dominated Aston Villa, and it didn't help my double attack with Consa getting sent off with about 25 minutes to go. Looking ahead to Aston Villa's fixtures, they do have Brentford this weekend, so I'm hopeful Rodgers and Watkins can get back amongst the returns in game week 2. On to the half-5 game, and my differential REIJNDERS came away with a massive 10-point haul, a goal and assist away to Wolves. If you watch my YouTube deadline stream on Friday evening, I spoke about him all stream, and thank the Lord he came away with a massive return. And as expected, I'm expecting to be around 5.7, 5.8 million before that Friday night deadline. He is already at 5.6 million at the time of this recording. I'm just glad I had him in the team in game week 1. Moving on to Sunday's games, I tripled Chelsea at home to Crystal Palace, so I was hopeful of getting some returns from our double Chelsea attack, but the returns actually came from Sanchez and goals as he picked up a clean sheet, a save point and an extra bonus point that came in late Monday night to come away with an 8-pointer. The game didn't start off great with Eze scoring directly from a free kick just outside the box where Sanchez should have done a lot better, but thankfully the goal was ruled out. Maybe harshly, but thankfully it was ruled out as there was a foul on Caicedo as Eze took the free kick. Mateta probably could have scored in this game also in the first half, only from Sanchez coming away with a nice save in that game, so I was glad to see him get the clean sheet. Moving up the field then, Palmer and João Pedro were very quiet in this game. Palmer was coming very deep and João Pedro didn't have a sniff at all in this game, and he was also subbed off just after 70 minutes. And I think we're going to see a lot of this throughout the season, with the lap looking to make an impact from the bench. I opted to go for double Forest defence on my deadline stream on Friday evening, and it looked to be the correct decision, with Forest cruising in that Brentford game, only for Brentford to get a late penalty in the second half to wipe out my double Forest clean sheet, which is a tough one to take in game week 1. There's nothing worse than getting a double defensive clean sheet wipeout late on in a game. Looking ahead to Forest fixtures over the next couple, they've got Crystal Palace, West Ham, Sunderland and Burnley over the next 5 games, so I'm confident we will see some Forest clean sheets, and fingers crossed we do. Bruno Fernandes finished off the game week with a blank. He came away with 10 defensive contributions in that game, so he was close to coming away with an extra 2 points. He did create 5 chances in that game, so I think we will see some returns from Bruno Fernandes and Man United over the next couple of game weeks. Maybe they were unlucky not to come away with a result in that game against Arsenal. There was a mistake from the United keeper where Arsenal got that goal, and United did look the more dominant team in that game, so I'm happy to keep Bruno in that team, especially eyeing up that captaincy pick in game week 3 for Bruno Fernandes. And all in all, 55 points for game week 1 wasn't a bad start to the game week, an okay start to the game week, but I'm happy with how my team is shaping up, and let's see how we're lining up ahead of game week 2. So before we get into my Game Week 2 team, here's some of the most popular questions I've been receiving over on my Instagram account ahead of the Game Week 2 deadline, so I suppose we better get answering them. Starting off with question number 1, will I be using my bench boost in Game Week 2? Well, if you watch my preseason content, you'd have known I set up my team in the hopes of bench boosting in Game Week 2, but a lot has changed since Game Week 1. With FPL, you have to be reactive, anything can happen, so at the time of this recording, I'm not planning on using my bench boost this week. My bench is currently Dubravka at home to Sunderland, Anderson at home to Man United, Van de Ven away to Man City, and Gui away to Burnley. Looking at that bench, the only chance of real returns is probably a clean sheet for Dubravka at home to Sunderland. Gui didn't play for Sunderland at all in game week 1. Anderson probably won't come away with a clean sheet against United, and I don't expect Van de Ven to keep a clean sheet against Man City, so I'm looking to save my bench boost later on in the first half of the season. Next up, with Erling Haaland coming away with a brace in game week 1 and a 13-point haul, Should you be transferring him into your team for a -4? Well, the short answer to that question is no, you should not. I know it can be very frustrating looking at the premium assets in your team all blanking, with the likes of Bruno, Saka, Palmer, Watkins, Rodgers, João Pedro all coming away with a blank in game week 1, and Haaland is staring right at you with a 13-point haul. The best thing to do is just stay patient, stay calm. Watkins and Rodgers have a nice fixture against Brentford. Arsenal have a lovely fixture against Leeds. Chelsea have a lovely fixture against West Ham. All these teams performed very poorly. Well, their opposition performed very poorly in game week 1. So I wouldn't be surprised to see these players get some returns this week. So no, I wouldn't take a hit. Avoid taking hits this season, especially earlier on. I know a lot of people can be very tempted to try and chase price rises. Just stay calm. And yeah, these players will return sooner rather than later. Another question over on Instagram was, should you be selling Palmer to bring in Saka with that favourable fixture at home for Arsenal against Leeds? Short answer again, no, I wouldn't be making this move this week. You might be tempted to if you are looking to captain Saka at home to Leeds. I know Palmer was picking up some very cheap positions in that Crystal Palace game, but no, I'd be keeping Palmer this week. West Ham look very poor against Sunderland, and I'm expecting Chelsea to bounce back after that draw at home against Crystal Palace. Looking at Saka then as well, he didn't have much of an impact in that game against Man United on Sunday, and it looks to be confirmed that Gyökeres is going to be first choice penalty taker for Arsenal. So if Saka is losing penalties, I don't think he's worth that price point around the 10 million mark. So no, I wouldn't be doing that. Keep Palmer in the team. I do expect him to come away with a return on Friday night. With Spurs coming away with that clean sheet against Burnley in game week 1, the next question was asking me whether you should be playing your Spurs defensive assets against Man City in that early kickoff this weekend. If you do have Pedro Porro in your team, I would play him just off the fact that he will be on set pieces, will be on corner kicks, so there's every chance he could sneak an attack and return in that game. If you have the likes of Van de Ven or Romero, I probably wouldn't play them this week. You're probably better off leaving him on your bench. If you have the likes of Esteve on your bench, I prefer to play him at home against Sunderland this week. With Konsa picking up that red card in the early kickoff against Newcastle on Saturday, a very popular question was who is the best replacement for Konsa in and around the 4.5 million mark. I was very impressed with the Crystal Palace defence against Chelsea on Sunday, so I'd probably go for Chris Richards. I know they've got some difficult fixtures over the next couple against Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa, but from game week 4, Crystal Palace have a very nice fixture run. I was very impressed with them. You probably could go Guehi also, but we're not sure on his future. Chris Richards is probably the safest pick in that Palace defence. And last off then, if you have Wirtz in your team, what should you do with him? Should you keep him? Should you sell him? He is at that awkward 8.5 million price tag where you can't stretch to Bruno Fernandes. I nearly went for Wirtz myself. I went for Bruno Fernandes. It didn't matter in the end as both of them came away with a blank, but I'm sure it was very frustrating watching that Liverpool game with all the Liverpool attackers coming away with a return as Wirtz failed to return. But he's definitely a wait and see for me. If you have him, I would advise keeping him in your team. Save the free transfer. He does have Newcastle and Arsenal up next, where he might fail to return in those games. But from game week 4 onwards, Liverpool have some nice fixtures. Looking at my own team, I'm potentially looking at a transfer out of Bruno to Wirtz in game week 4. So I'll be keeping a close eye on Wirtz, how he gets on over the next couple of game weeks. So if you have him in your team, keep him for now. Save that transfer. So looking at my team ahead of the game week 2 deadline, we're starting off with the defence, and starting off in goals, I've opted not to play my 2 Burnley defence at home to Sunderland this weekend. I think it would have been very unfair and very harsh if I did bench Sanchez off the back of his 8-point return against Palace in game week 1. To be honest with you, I'm not even that hopeful of a Burnley clean sheet this weekend, just with how well Sunderland played against West Ham in game week 1. I am playing Esteve at least. It's a better fixture on paper compared to Van de Ven against Man City, so Esteve makes the team over Van de Ven. I do think Chelsea have a decent chance of getting a clean sheet with how bad West Ham played, so let's see how they get on in that London derby on Friday evening. And then Milenkovic and Nico Williams complete my back three. They're up against Crystal Palace this weekend. I have Anderson against Man United on the bench along with Van de Ven. They were unlucky not to get their clean sheet in game week 1 against Brentford, so let's see how they get on in game week 2. Moving on to my 5-man midfield, it's the exact same midfield as it was in game week 1, as it will be in game week 2. I know Palmer, Bruno Fernandes and Morgan Rodgers all blanked in game week 1, but I'm confident we can get some attacking returns, or maybe even some DEFCON points from Bruno Fernandes. Looking at Palmer, he's up against a very leaky West Ham side that were very poor in game week 1. Same at Rodgers, up against a Brentford side who were outclassed by Forest in that first half. And with Bruno Fernandes, he created 5 chances in that Arsenal game. Was fairly unlucky not to come away with a return. He created 5 chances in that game at Old Trafford. So let's see how he gets on against Fulham on Sunday. Looking at the captaincy then, Mo Salah gets the armband this week. Eyeing up that Newcastle fixture, there's a lot of noise around that Alexander Isak transfer. Let's see how he gets on. It's hard not to captain Salah, especially after he got that late goal against Bournemouth on Friday. So I'm happy just to leave the armband on Salah as there's no major other shouts for the armband. Maybe Palmer if he got a return at the weekend, but he didn't, so I'm happy to leave it on Salah this week. Reijnders completes my 5-man midfield as I predicted in last week's video and on the deadline stream. If he hauled in game week 1, I wouldn't be surprised to see him 5.7, 5.8 before the deadline. He's already priced at 5.6. I'm just glad I went with him in my game week 1 team. Let's see how he gets on against Spurs. I'm predicting him to start. Surely Pep can't bench him again, but I do expect him to be benched over the course of the season also when Rodri is back into the team. But at 5.5 million now, no complaints at all. Let's see how he gets on at the weekend. João Pedro and Watkins complete my starting 11 for this weekend's games. They are up against poor opposition in West Ham and Brentford, so even though they did blank in game week 1, João Pedro especially had a very quiet game against Crystal Palace in game week 1, but I am hopeful that both of them can come away with an attacking return and get their season up and running. So going through that starting 11, I'm very happy with how the team is lining up. I'm happy with the structure. Maybe I need to keep a close eye on that double Aston Villa attack. Same with that double Chelsea attack. Maybe even Bruno Fernandes, but I was talking about that potential transfer out for Wirtz come game week 4. But for now, that's how the team, and that's how I'm shaping up ahead of game week 2. So as of now, I will be looking to save my bench boost this week. I'm not that confident of too many returns on the bench. Dubravka, fair enough, might get some returns. Van de Ven against City, not confident there. Anderson against Man United, I don't think so. And even Mark Gui, he didn't start at all, or didn't play any minutes at all in that fixture for Sunderland against West Ham. So I'm predicting Sunderland will play with their same starting 11 as they did in game week 1. So I'm not that confident of returns from Gui from the bench. So I'm happy to save my bench boost for later on the season, and that's my reasons why. If you had made it to the end of the video, please give it a like, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's hit the like goal of 70 likes on this video, and if you are watching and you're not subscribed, head on down there, click subscribe on the channel if you are enjoying the content. We are aiming to hit 10k subs before Christmas, and with your support, fingers crossed we can get there. On Friday, I'll be down in Dublin filming with a WWE wrestler during the day, but I am hopeful I can get across to my sister's house and get a YouTube deadline stream out of the way before the deadline. So fingers crossed you can join me for that, and fingers crossed I can get through the Dublin traffic and get that deadline stream up and running. Thanks for watching. Best of luck for Game Week 2. I'll see you in the next video.